Before continuing, you should know how to write a formula and how to calculate the molar mass of a compound. I'm going to show you how to do a percent composition. Now, a percent composition is what percentage of a compound is made up of an element or not. And we're going to do a percent composition by mass. Sometimes it's known as a mass percent. But when you've learned about percentages, normally you were probably taught that a percentage is a part divided by a total, multiplied by 100, and gives you a percent. For example, if I have 10 marbles and there are 4 blue marbles, then 4 divided by 10 times 100 gives you 40% blue marbles. All right? So it's part over total. Now the total we'll be using is the molar mass, and the part will be part from the element in that molar mass. All right, so I'm going to zoom in. All right, the first one we're going to do is ammonium sulfate. Ammonium sulfate, so what we need is the actual formula for ammonium sulfate. Ammonium is a polyatomic ion, NH4 plus 1. Sulfate is SO4 minus 1. If you are still unsure about the polyatomic ions, make sure that you have your polyatomic ions out in front of you so that you can get them correct. All right? You have to have a correct formula before you do the percent composition because it's based on the formula. All right. So ammonium is plus 1, sulfate is minus 2, so it looks like I'm going to need 2 ammoniums to balance out 1 sulfate. So the formula ends up being NH4 parentheses 2 SO4. Now, I'm going to do an atom count, which is I have 2 nitrogens, and I have 8 hydrogens, I have 1 sulfur, and I've got 4 oxygens. Now, looking at the periodic table, the molar mass of nitrogen is 14, so that's 28. Molar mass of hydrogen is 1, so it's just 8. The atomic mass of sulfur is 32, so that's 32. And the atomic mass of oxygen is 16, so that is 64. Now, if I add these all together, we get 40, 104, 132 grams per mole. All right? So this 132 is made up of nitrogen, hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen. 28 grams is what makes up the 132 for nitrogen. 8 grams of hydrogen makes up the 132. 32 grams of sulfur makes up the 132. And the 64 grams from oxygen makes up the 132 for oxygen. So if I want to find the percent composition of nitrogen, what I want to do is I want to use the mass from the nitrogen, which is 28, and I want to put that on top because that's a part, 28. Now underneath it, I'm going to put 132 because that's the total, times 100, and that's going to give me about 21.2%. Now I want to go at least one place over the decimal just to be a little bit more precise and accurate. So if I was doing hydrogen, I would do 8 over 132. So 8 over 132 times 100. And that would give me about 6.1%. If I was doing sulfur, you guessed it, it would be 32 over 132. And it ends up being 24.2%. And last is oxygen. Now what I could do is I could add up all these percentages and subtract it from 100. Or I can just go ahead and just do 64 divided by 132 times 100. And I should get about 48.4%. Now, it's okay if these 4 numbers don't add up to 100 perfectly, as long as you're showing your work and they are consistently written to one place after the decimal. So that's how you find the percent composition.